Members, in your packet, you have the meeting minutes from March 28th. If Representative Uglum wants to move the meeting minutes.
Madam Chair, the minutes look good to me. I'd move the minutes.
Representative Uglum moves the minutes for March 28th. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed?
Very nice.
The minutes are adopted. Members, we've got a full agenda. We're going to start off with Representative Bahr. We've had a little snafu. Representative Bahr, this is just an informational. We're not moving the bill. So if you want, or we are moving the bill to the general register. Representative Bahr.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, House File 3282 is a modification of the current intrastate household mover, the way a tariff is filed for the household movers. This bill was supposed to be referred to the general register, and it was inadvertently referred to your committee, and I just request favorable action. And as a peace offering, I have brought treats to amend for your wasted time.
You can come to our committee anytime by mistake, so we appreciate that. So members, I'm going to renew my motion that House File 3282 be referred to the general register. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The bill is back to the general register. So
Thank you.
thank you, Representative Bahr. We have Representative Daniels. Is he here? Welcome to the committee, Representative Daniels. Representative Daniels, I'm going to move House File 4084 be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment without recommendation. If you want to present your bill, do you want to do them all in collection? Are you going to be talking about them all at the same time, or?
Yes, Madam Chair. First off, Madam Chair and the committee, thank you for hearing these four bills. If you'd like, Madam Chair, I could do one bill and then move right into the next one, It might make a little more sense to the committee that there are different projects and different needs that they have at the deaf and blind schools.
Perfect. Well, we've got the first one is 4084.
All right, very good. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just kind of an introduction. I did a little research in the last couple of years, and I found out basically the establishment of the deaf school was before Minnesota was actually a state. Now, the first year the Minnesota was a state in, 1858, May 11th, 1858, Minnesota became a state. During that first session, they had such an investment, or wanted to make an investment into the deaf children. So that's officially when the deaf school started in Faribault. They asked Faribault to donate 40 acres to build the school on, and that was all done that first year, but there was something called the Civil War going on, so nothing happened until 5 years later. And it's just interesting how, looking back at history, how this things, kind of work. So anyway, the first students I had was in 1863 enrolled. And so we don't have quite that old buildings. Those buildings were across from our library downtown Faribault, and that building's no longer there. But so just kind of keep in mind, the school is older than the state of Minnesota. Even when we started building on the campuses, we have some buildings over 100 years old on the National Register for Historic Buildings. So that's kind of the starting point. So I'll get into House File 4084. At the blind school, there's a plot of land that would fit a 400-meter running track. And my son went to the deaf school, graduated in '99, and the only opportunity they had was to join the public school, which is really nice because we didn't have anything to offer. So he was in the deaf school football team and the basketball team, but it came to track in the spring, he had no option than to go to the public school. So our first request is $800,000 to design and build running track. It would be located, I believe, the idea was on the blind campus. There's enough room there, and it's parking lot between the building and what the track would be, so it'd be a good location. Do you want me, Madam Chair, would you like me to take questions on each bill, or should I do all 4 bills?
Yeah,
And then-
we will do that, and then we'll have everybody, if there's anybody from the audience that wishes to testify too
Okay.
as well, so.
So what I'm going to do there, if I could, at this bill, turn it over to my testifier, Superintendent Wilding.
Yep.
And have him kind of fill in some of the blanks and a little more history on the school for the athletic track.
Great. Welcome, Mr. Wilding. Please state your name for the record and who you represent.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. My name is Terry Wilding. I am the superintendent for the Minnesota State Academies. I supervise both the School for the Deaf and the Blind. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to present today. Looking at our track project, we have had the opportunity to share our track with our neighbor, which is Shattuck St. Mary's. We've used their track. Our sports programs, our PE classes have had an opportunity to use that at the blind school. However, they have not had the opportunity to make use of that. There is a concrete track that they're able to use. So we would like to have a track that would be accessible for both of our student populations with the appropriate support, equipment, et cetera. Right now, we are looking at the blind school property as a potential, but we do have a potential as well on the deaf school campus. So we would need to have a contractor come in and look at the land and figure out which would be the better spot for that. But we'd like to set up a track to serve both populations of students for their health and wellness activities, including sporting activities that, we want to make sure that we provide a well-rounded education for our students and developing those lifelong habits. We have been asking for this. This is about the 4th time that we've asked for it, and each time the price goes up. So we're hoping to secure this funding so that way we are not facing any increasing costs. The reason why we're no longer able to make use of Shattuck St. Mary's track is because they were planning to demo that and rebuild on that site. So we won't have access to that. So we do need something that will serve our campuses.
Great. Members, I'm first going to see if there's anybody else from the audience that wishes to testify to this bill. If not, members with questions, Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I didn't even know I raised my hand.
You moved your microphone. So
Oh.
I assumed you wanted to speak.
Good sign. Representative Daniels and Mr. Principal, just members that are on the Capital Investment Committee have had opportunity to visit down there, and it's just powerful work they're doing down there, and thank you for that, Representative Daniels, for bringing this forward. And as it moves forward into capital investment, happy to help you. So thank you for the work that's done there. It's really a neat facility. Thank you.
Okay. Representative Detmer.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative, thank you, Daniels, for bringing this forward. As you know, I grew up in Faribault, and we had some great times with both the School for the Blind and also the School for the Deaf, and their athletic teams, were, especially the wrestling team from the School for the Blind, came over and scrimmaged us all the time, and School for the Deaf, we always scrimmage in football. And I know playing football against their team, I had to really hang on to the ball because the official would throw a flag instead of a whistle. And of course, they were always going after the ball. And it was a fun, it's a great way for schools to get together in the same community and have some great time together. So, and I've toured the facilities there. Those are facilities that are well needed. Thank you.
All right. With that, I'm going to renew my motion that House File 4084 be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment without recommendation. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? That bill is on its way, and I'm going to move that House File 4087 be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment without recommendation. And to your bill, Representative Daniels, 4087.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This request is for buildings that are on the blind school academies. I talked to the maintenance person there this morning. We didn't know exactly when they were built, but sometime between 1982 and 1986, they were built. And basically, we're asking for money to pre-design, design, construct, furnace, and equip renovation of Kramer, Brandine, and Rhodey dormitories. It's just past due. Superintendent Wilding has only been there for a year and a half, and I know when Mr. Harper was there before that, this has been an ongoing need for, I'm going to guess and say 8 to 10 years, and we'd like to see some funding there just to keep the buildings up to date and keep them ADA compliant. But I'm going to turn over to my superintendent here so that he can explain more of the details on that project as well.
Great. Mr. Wilding?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, the dorms were built in the early 80s before the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed, and the features are not quite accessible to our blind students. Keep in mind that we do serve blind students who have other physical challenges and other physical needs that are not able to be met in those buildings. For example, the kitchens, the restrooms, those need some upgrades and renovations, as well as the heating and cooling systems. In one room may be 90 degrees, in another room may be 55 degrees. Some kids are cold, some kids are hot, and we've been trying to change it over time, but really we need an update to the system. As you know, we are a residential school. About half of our kids live on campus during the week, so we need to be sure that we're providing them a safe and accessible environment for them to live in. So that money is important to maintaining the safety and comfortability of those dorms for our students.
Okay. Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to testify to this bill? Members, any questions? Representative Kunesh Podine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a question, but I do support the funding for this bill. My husband's grandfather was a farmer in Northfield and was blinded by a dynamite accident and ended up going to the school for adult learning, where he learned Braille and other skills that allowed him to earn money. Some of the rugs that he had made, we still have. Some of the benches with the woven seats, we still have, and those are definitely really precious heirlooms. But I also have a neighbor who taught there for years, and her husband and his brother were students at the school there. And so I've heard, the generational stories and how important it is, and I think it's important that we're addressing the needs of those folks as well as the rest in Minnesota, so thank you.
Okay. All right, with that, Representative Daniels.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to add, we talk about being ADA compliant, and these buildings, of course, built in the early to mid 80s. And I've gone to the last, I believe it's 4 graduations at the blind school, and a number of those kids are in wheelchairs. So you can imagine not having a bathroom ADA compliant, not having ramps in the right places. And I think I think the ramps have finally been accomplished, but there's a lot of other improvements that really are needed just to make it easier for the kids who are really struggling. You don't just see a person who's deaf at the deaf school. You don't just see a person who's blind at the blind school. Some are deaf and blind. Some are blind with several handicaps. Same in the deaf school. They are multiple range of handicaps, and so many success stories come from those 2 schools of how they go on to live a normal, functioning life, not reliant on Social Security for their income, but actually productive citizens. And it's really a testimony to the people like our superintendent and the staff there. Lola Brandt's been there for, I believe, 35 years, so she's kind of seen a lot of things come and go. And there's just story after story after story of where somebody went into the school, really not much of a future. I'll give you 2 quick examples, and we'll get going here. My son graduated there in 1999. Just to give you an idea where he started from, he was in the public school, both at Bagley and Bemidji, with an interpreter and a part-time aide. His grade was probably an average of a D- at most of the time. And in 7th grade, he was on the bench warmer for the junior varsity football team. And as Representative Dentner probably knows, that deaf school has a tradition of winning national championships. There's I can't even count them all. It's got to be 20 plus for just for football. So anyway, my son went to the deaf school starting in 8th grade. We still lived in Bemidji at the time. And when he graduated his senior year, I think his grade point, we averaged put it about A minus. For football, he was voted the best defensive player in the nation for the deaf schools. So from a bench warmer to the best player in the country, it wouldn't have happened without the deaf school.
As a parent, you made the right decision. That's great to hear. Thank you, Representative Daniels. With that, members, I'm going to move that House File 4087 be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment without recommendation. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? And that bill is on its way as well. Representative Daniels, you have 2 more to go. I'm going to move House File 4088 be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment without recommendation. To your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This one is, to me, is probably the most important bill we have. It's for the safety of our children in school, and we house at the deaf school basically almost from infant to 21 years of age. There's 3 main buildings that house the classrooms. Currently, they're all not connected. So if you go from one class to a different class, you have to basically go outside on the sidewalk to get to the next building. And we talk about all these different shootings through the country. It's a real concern that we keep our children as safe as possible. We hopefully got you the colored little blow up here of the 3 buildings in the corridor. I hope that got in there. No. If not, is it? Let me pass them off. It makes it a little bit easier to follow. But the one I've got here in orange is, let's see, I can do this backwards here. Noyles Hall is here. That's the oldest one. That was over 80 or over 100 years old. And then the 2 other classrooms are built in the 70s, if I remember right. And right now you have to go from building to building to building outside. So entrance points, there's several entrance points, and I've been there myself on many, many occasions. You can walk in whatever door you want to walk in. There's nobody there. You got to maybe try to find out where you're going, and you know it's not a good safe setup. So the idea in the safety corridor is to spend a total of $5.3 million over 2 separate basically projects there. To enclose that, have 1 main entry. And there again, I'd like to have my superintendent kind of fill in all the stuff that I probably missed and that are extremely important as well. So
Sure.
that I'll turn it over to
Mr. Wilding.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I began at MSA a year and a half ago, my first surprise was that we had nothing related to safety and communication with our deaf and hard of hearing students. For example, if there's an alarm or alert, none of our students were being notified about that. The different pieces in the different buildings, there was no real unity. Like Representative Daniels said, we have 3 separate buildings. You're able to enter those without stopping by an office. Nobody's really there to check to see who's coming in and out. It's easy for people to bypass the offices and go right into the buildings. So that's a huge concern for me. Last year, we received $50,000 for the pre-design of this. We've had meetings with architects about that. You'll see our design, which is close to our final concept. Our goal is to create a connected safety zone where people can come in, they can get approval, a pass before they head into any of our other buildings. It will also have other doors and security features to make sure that they're closed down, for example, in case of lockdown. Hopefully we'll never need that, but we want to have something in place to protect our students. Because again, our students are coming from all over the state. The parents are trusting us to keep their kids safe, and we want to make sure that we are meeting that commitment. With that design, there's 2 parts to that. The first part is looking at that connection and that space, looking at the flow, setting it up where we want those safety doors. That's the first part. So that is in the yellow that you can see. The second part, and the first part would be 5.3 million about. The second part is to continue improving the remainder of the buildings around that. We want to upgrade the doors, the windows, the entrances, et cetera, and bringing those up to current needs. The buildings were built in the early 70s, so they're pretty old. There are some things that need to be upgraded. In that process, we'd like to improve our mass communication system, so there's visual information that would be sent to our students. Instead of depending on someone who can hear bringing the message to them. Over 75% of our 75% of our staff are deaf as well. We may have only a few hearing people in the building. So that mass communication system would help alert everyone as needed. So that way individuals are aware of what is going on in case of an emergency. One anecdote I'd like to share that isn't included in this. In doing some research, we were looking at technology, and there's one that can identify bullets when they're shot and start the appropriate alarm instead of depending on someone to actually pull to physically start it. So it could happen in an area where, it's outside, no one has any idea it's going on, but the system would help us to ensure that the school becomes more safe in case of an emergency. So this is our priority, our number one project we'd like to see finished, and we thank you for your support for that.
Okay. Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to testify to this bill? Members, any questions? Representative Daniels, final comments?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Again, the school is a state-operated function, so a lot of the other schools, like Representative Detmer testified yesterday in our meeting that his school has already had a bunch of the safety upgrades, and a lot of schools have. I think Representative Fabian was mentioning that too, but the state can't do a local levy. So unfortunately, it all has to come through the state. That's our only source of funding. So just kind of keep that in mind when we have these requests. It'd be different if we could levy for some of the funding locally, but just not possible.
Okay. Well, with that, members, I'm going to renew my motion that House File 4088 be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment without recommendation. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the bill is on its way. And Representative Daniels, I'm going to move House File 4146 be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment without recommendation. To your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This one is kind of that asset preservation, similar to the one at the blind school. There's just a long list of items that need the maintenance. And to be totally honest, Representative Mary Murphy had a suggestion at yesterday's hearing that maybe we think every biennium we should probably schedule some, in college you call it HEAPR money, and in K through 12 it's the maintenance type of things. But since it's a state-run institution, we can't like I say, go to local levy or anything like that. So maybe we should put some thought into doing a funding dollar amount every 2 years, just so we don't get behind. Because I know there are a lot more items on here than what this is listed for. Superintendent Wilding has prioritized already, so we make sure we get the structures. He was talking about windows. We just did the roof on Noyles Hall last year. And because of the age of these buildings and the complexity of them, they're not your typical do a roof in 2 days and be done. It's it's quite a bit different procedure. So what this bill is asking for is basically asset preservation for both campuses, just to kind of bring up some of the items that if you have a leaky roof, you're going to have a lot more expense if you don't get the roof fixed in a reasonable amount of time. These are, from what I can see, is along those lines. There again, I'm going to, for the details, I'm going to have Superintendent Wilding fill in all the details for me.
Great. Mr. Wilding?
Madam Chair, thank you. what has been mentioned already, our campus is very old. Several buildings are over 100 years old or are soon approaching that 100-year mark. So yes, there are a lot of issues related to heating, to cooling, access, maintenance of those buildings. Windows need to be replaced. We have doors that need to be replaced as well. Some of the sidewalks need to be repaired. The list is lengthy, and we have prioritized that. With the governor's report, we're trying to meet the goal of the energy efficiency and ensure that our buildings are meeting that, but our buildings, as they're aged, are not energy efficient. So we'd like to bring those up to current standards. We also want to preserve the history that we have, but again, we're a school. We have a commitment to support accessibility and an appropriate learning environment for our students. So we're trying to maintain those buildings, and this asset preservation money would go towards different projects. Obviously, we wouldn't be able to cover everything on our campuses, but we want to look at what's realistic for the next 2 to 3 years of work, and that would go to covering some of those projects that we can accomplish within the 2 to 3 years. Like Representative Daniels said, we're looking at that possibility of having continual fund of money, so that way it's not so much every time that we're requesting. Having an annual allocation or biannual allocation. Right now, we're asking for this money to catch us up a bit.
Is there anyone from the audience that wishes to testify to this bill? Members, any questions? All right, I'm going to renew my motion that House File 4146 be referred to the Committee on Capital Investment without recommendation. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Your bill is on its way. I want to thank Representative Daniels and Mr. Wilding for presenting this. It's been an education, for sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for the committee to hear the bills, the bonding requests. I could share quite a few stories of the children who've gone through the deaf school. I'll do one. I know the time is short. My campaign manager is totally deaf, graduated the same year as my son did. He's run for city council 3 times now. He'll probably run again. Extremely active in the community, extremely active in the deaf community. He's on the state board for the school, has his own business, doing very well in his own business. And if the deaf school wasn't there, unfortunately, he would probably be either a very minimal labor job or sitting at home waiting for that check to come on the first of the month. And that school turns these potentials into reality, and it's really exciting to see what it's done.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Representative Daniels. Thank you, Mr. Wilding. I'm going to call Representative Lueck. He's not. All right, and then I'm going to go with Representative Rarick. Okay, Representative Bliss? Is he here? Representative Bliss? Yep.
Sorry, Madam Chair, my hearing isn't as good as it should be.
Welcome to the committee.
Thank you.
Representative Bliss, I'm going to move that House File 3662 be laid over for possible inclusion in the state government finance bill. I assume this is your amendment?
Yes, Madam Chair, I have a DE amendment.
I'm going to move the DE1 amendment to get the bill in the order that the author wishes. All those in favor of the DE1 amendment, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, the amendment is adopted. Representative Bliss, to your bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You're all aware of the latest settlement we had with the 3M Corporation to take care of some environmental cleanup. In that, I believe it was an $850 million settlement, and 125 of that went to legal fees. In the Environment and Natural Resource Committee, the question was asked, if any money would be left over for cleaning the surface water and the wildlife population, and they felt that it was going to be a tight fit and that it could easily extend over $100 million just for the surface water and wildlife cleanup. So when you see that the lawyers got $125 million that could have went back into environmental cleanup, it made me a little bit angry, and I don't think there should be a settlement of that size allowed for our state to be in. And with that, on the DE2 amendment, any contracts that are done with contingency fees cannot be any more than 2% or $100,000, whichever is greater. And that would allow contingency fees to be used. I know, Madam Chair, you've had a bill to eliminate contingency fees. This would severely limit the contingency fees, and that would have provided a $17 million settlement to the law firm. So I think that would have been quite satisfactory, or quite enough, sufficient. So that's the extent of my bill. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great. Is there anyone that wishes to testify on this bill? Mr. Gilbert, I'm going to ask that you be mindful of the time, and if you can provide your testimony, welcome to the committee.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Frankly, I wasn't aware of this amendment that the representative is proposing. What I would like to do, and I know you, Representative Anderson, have a bill that I believe is going to be considered later. What I would like to do is explain the background of that case, the 3M case, which would not have been brought but for the fact that a contingency fee was used in that case. And in that regard, I would like to, and I know you've asked me to be brief, Representative Anderson, but it will take me a little bit of time to explain the background of that case.
Mr. Gilbert, you have until 22.
Okay, thank you. That's not going to do justice to what I need to present, Your Honor?
There's a second bill. You'll have another opportunity to
Okay.
provide more testimony at that point.
Well, in terms of the limitations on contingency fees, which I'm just looking at your amendment right now, Representative, and as I understand it, it deals with the greater of $100,000 or 2% of the settlement amount. So does this, if I might ask the representative a question?
No,
Okay.
actually, that's not how we do.
Okay. May not enter into a legal contract for legal services if the fees and expenses to be paid by the state would exceed or can reasonably be expected to exceed. Right now, there is a statute, as you know, 8.065, that provides for the Legislative Advisory Commission, who's been delegated the function to determine whether a state contract that has a fee amount of $1 million or more or could reasonably be expected to generate $1 million in attorney's fees, to go to the LAC. And for the LAC then to provide input and review of that contract. And we believe that that is adequate under the circumstances. That contract has been in place since 2000, that statute's been in place since 2005. In the 3M case itself, that the Legislative Advisory Committee approved the contingency fee contract that served to be a proper mechanism to review contracts of that kind. And without that particular contingency fee arrangement that we have with the firm, we wouldn't have been able to generate $765 million on a net basis to fix a problem that needs to be fixed in the East Metropolitan area. And the legislature hasn't provided any assistance in that regard, hasn't provided any appropriation. And as you know, Representative Anderson, when this case was brought, there was actually an adverse decision that was made a year before the case was brought. The statute of limitations was running. The state and the state agencies involved, the MPCA, DNR, and the AG's office, didn't have the funds to finance that particular case. And a contingency fee contract, for any of you who are not aware of it, provides that the financial risk is on the law firm. If you lose the case, the law firm not only is responsible to pay for all costs of the litigation, but also it doesn't get any attorney's fees. And in this case, as I said, a year before the case was brought, there was a decision in Washington County adverse to the plaintiffs in that case. They were zeroed out on that case. And because of the statute of limitations running, the Attorney General used her constitutional discretion to determine that a contingency fee contract was appropriate in that case. As I said, use the existing statute that this legislature, by enacting that statute, delegated to the LAC the authority to approve that contract, which in fact they did in that case. And to the extent there's any second guessing of that contract at this point in time, that is nothing more than Monday morning quarterbacking as far as I'm concerned. It was approved by the LAC. It was a great result on behalf of the citizens of this state. There's $765 million that can be used to rectify the problem. I have not heard what you indicated, Representative, that it may not be enough. I've heard the opposite. But in any event, we oppose this bill. The existing provision, 8.065, is adequate to deal with this issue, and I don't think you need anything more than that.
Great. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify to House File 3662? Mr. Carlson, welcome to the committee. If you can please state your name for the record and who you represent.
Thank you, Madam Chairman and members. My name is Joel Carlson. I own a government affairs business here in St. Paul, and I'm in front of you on behalf of the Minnesota Association for Justice, a group that I've represented for some 24 years now here at the Capitol, and they principally are lawyers across the state of Minnesota who operate on a contingent fee basis. And I can tell you was not involved, and my members were not involved in the 3M case. But you need to know, and I echo what Solicitor Gilbert said, the contingent fee is, comes from the English common law, and it is really what empowers individuals and sometimes the state to go against well-heeled and very well-funded defendants to assert their very important legal rights. And I can tell you that without the contingent fee, these cases will never be asserted. And you just simply cannot fund on an individual basis in the kinds of cases our members handle, or in a case like this against a very powerful defendant. You simply just cannot fund that cost out of your pockets. And I guarantee you, if I came to you and I said, members, I need $40 million to run 3 years of litigation with a legal team of 25 people, consultants, paralegals, experts, and I need to have you appropriate that money. And without it, we cannot assert our rights to have our groundwater cleaned up, where we know that there is a problem. You would show me to the door. And if I told you further that we might lose, and that $40 million that we've spent investing in that case is gone, you absolutely would not do it. You also set up a scenario where a very powerful defendant can come to this legislature and lobby you not to authorize that expenditure and insulate themselves from liability. And that is an unintended consequence of this proposal, but it is a very real consequence. Lastly, Madam Chair and members, you need to know that this doesn't just impact a case like 3M, which is an aberration, a very important one. We have lawyers that represent the state on a contingent fee on a daily basis. And I'll give you one good example, the Department of Human Services. We daily represent the state on a contingent fee to reimburse the state for medical expenses that they have incurred that should be the rightful responsibility of some other party. We do all of those cases, and we collect millions of dollars for the state on a contingent fee basis. And it is not 2%. And they could be in excess of $100,000. I know of a case that the recovery was over $5 million for an infant case who had a lifetime of injury that was the responsibility of a wrongdoer that we collected for the state. All of those would be impacted by this language. I read headlines too, and I scratch my head when I see how much we pay professional athletes or CEOs, and there are numbers that can shock us. I appreciate that. But I'm not going to say that because this particular group of professionals made what we feel is an excessive fee. When I look at the head of Walmart e-commerce, who made last year $234 million, one guy. Apple, $150 million. Tesla, $96 million. One person. I'm not going to second guess that judgment. Just like I don't want the legislature on a contract that was approved by an appropriate way to come back now and second guess and say that fee seems too high. So, Madam Chair, this has a lot of unintended consequences, most of what, we'll shorten it because when your bill comes up, I would basically say the same thing. But this has some very real consequences that will prevent us from asserting our very important legal rights, and I hope you'll use caution as you consider this proposal further. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Perfect. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify to this bill? Okay, Representative Uglum?
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, it is kind of interesting that some of those points that were brought up were well-founded. When you look at these attorney's fees, they're appalling, okay? Don't get me wrong, and that kind of money. But the investment that a specialty firm makes over a period of years, if you stop to think about it, they're paying expert witnesses anywhere from $400 to $2,000 an hour. These firms, national firms, have national recognition into each one of their various areas of expertise, and all that money's going out for a period of years. You got no money coming in. There's no cash flow. It's all on the come. And then, yes, if they win big. If they don't, they're rolling the dice, and all that money is gone. And it can amount to many, many, many millions of dollars that a firm is investing in a lawsuit, particularly over a long period of time. So, and then I contrast that with the resources of the state of Minnesota. And it's true, we have all kinds of lawyers here at the state, but as far as their resources and expertise compared to some of these firms that do this on a national basis, we're going to start with one hand tied behind our back. I'm convinced of that. I mean, this is a bill that I guess I'm going to support, but I just want everybody to understand that these lawsuits, when you look at the dollars, yes, it's appalling, but when you look at the resources that have to be put into it, I question whether the state of Minnesota has those resources to do that. So it's a deep subject, and it's an important subject because we won. We got that money. And there was the settlement, which was a grant to the state of Minnesota, but we won. And if we were doing this ourselves, would we have even had any money in hand? I don't know. Just a few comments. Thank you.
Representative Bliss?
You know, my bill doesn't eliminate the contingency. My bill puts a cap on the contingencies. And you know, the lawyers will fight, and they'll get as much as they possibly can. And I'm not denying lawyers, you know, the ability to go out and earn a living and to understand the risks that they're taking. But the numbers that we're talking here are obscene. $125 million. It should have went for environmental cleanup. That's what it was meant for. Instead, it's going to a law firm out of Chicago. This money was meant to clean up the environment, and it needs to be cleaned up. And I'm not jumping into the politics of that lawsuit. And it's not Monday morning quarterbacking, because we're not going back and asking for any money back. That settlement is done, and we've agreed to it. I just want to put some guardrails on going forward.
Representative Ward?
Thank you, Madam Chair. 3M is in my district. The water that we're talking about is in my district, and Representative Fenton's, Representative Lomer's, Representative Frankie's. If we had not done this, if we had not pursued this, and I'm very confident that there is no way we could have gotten a law firm to work under these conditions that you're suggesting. So if we had not done a lawsuit and won, the state of Minnesota would be picking up the tab. to clean up this water. And that would be a lot more. We'd be in the hole in a big way.
Representative Lilly.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Representative Bliss. I'll probably save most of my comments for the chair's bill. That'll be lucky for her. But no, I'm in an affected area. I represent Oakdale, and some of the things that Representative Ward spoke to. I just really encourage caution. I don't know if I thought Representative Uglam's words were actually really powerful. I was a little disappointed to hear I'm probably going to vote for it, Bart, but other than that, the words were really true, and we have to be so careful, because I just don't know who's going to do these cases. Yes, we would wish you'd get the whole enchilada or whatever they say, but we most likely would have had nothing that's going to go to Representative Frankie's district, probably in the heaviest, to offer, literally people in his district are, drinking bottled water. The whole list. I could go through it, and it's tough. I don't know how. It's got to affect home sales, and most likely when I got the case, and just kind of, it reminds me of one of my favorite movies that I've ever seen, Aaron Brockovich. I don't know if you remember what happened. They had this little law firm that was doing this case, for some pollution, and ultimately they had to join up with a bigger company because they ran out of resources to actually go after the big case. I know it's a movie, but it's based on a true story too, but it's pretty powerful, and it actually fits this story. Is this the option was the state of Minnesota would have had nothing. We would have, and that's someday that could be your people too. Just honestly, that could be your neighbors. Right now it's ours, and I don't know the true answer. I wish every dollar, yes, went, but these cases help Minnesota. The tobacco one that once happened, I don't know the legal details of all that, but it was quite a bit of money that went to Minnesota. The Volkswagen one that's going on right now, they're spreading money around. Anyways, I'm talking longer than I meant, but the 3M settlement, I very easily could have been zero, and I think Representative Uglam really captured it probably even better than I did. Thank you.
Okay. Representative Bliss, or Representative Fenton, excuse me.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. And I look at this in a different way, because I want to make sure that every dime possible comes to our district, stays in our district for the remediation of the water cleanup. And what we don't see, and I'm going to request it, and I'm going to request it for your bill as well, but I want an itemized invoices to know exactly the cost and because I feel that there's more money that could have come to these districts to help with the water cleanup. So I'd like to have, to see itemized invoices of the money coming in and going out, and for what and why.
And so Representative, you haven't received any of that data yet.
I have not.
Representative Bliss,
Madam
final
Chair,
comment?
for the record, I have requested that information as well. I did get a list of what the Attorney General's office pays or charges out to different programs, but that's all I've received. So,
Okay.
and final words, I appreciate your support. We're not trying to limit, or we are trying to limit, not trying to cut out contingencies. There is a hard bottom, and this does not affect any private individuals, just the state.
Okay. I'm going to renew my motion that House File 3662 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus state government finance bill. With that, members, do I have to vote on that? I don't think we do. Okay. All right, we're good. Thank you, Representative Bliss. Okay, now we're going to go back to Representative Lueck. And I'm going to move that Senate File 1694 be referred to the General Register. Welcome to the committee, Representative Lueck.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good afternoon, members. This bill would establish June 29th as a recognition of General John Vessey, who is a Minnesotan that served 46 years on active duty and reached a rank of 4 stars. This has been in the works here for almost 2 years, and so this is kind of the last step here. The Senate did deal with this bill at the very end of last session. We had extensive testimony in the Veterans Committee. In your package, you'll find a fairly lengthy description of General Vessey and his background. He's literally one of the most noted Minnesotans that have served on active duty in our nation's history. So I realize we're pressed for time here. I know there are some members that also serve on the Veterans Committee. They could maybe attest to the fact that we had extensive hearing on this. We had a multitude of people that served with General Vessey in a variety of roles. In fact, myself, I put 28 years in, but I only had 14 years on active duty at the same time that General Vessey did. And particularly, he served under Ronald Reagan as JCS, Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. So while I think I was a lowly lieutenant, he was the senior officer in the United States military at the time. And as those of you that are maybe a little older, remember that's when we won the Cold War. So with that, I certainly would have testifiers if you desire, but it's fairly well known, General Vessey's background, and it would be great if we just move forward and recognize that day as a special day for the state of Minnesota.
And thank you, Representative Lueck, for bringing this bill forward and for your service as well.
Thank you.
Members, do you have any questions at this point? Representative Detmer.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. And thank you, Representative, for bringing it forward. I think it was like 3 months before General Vessey passed away, I get a phone call, and one of his last missions was to promote the renovation of Fort Snelling. And so we chatted for quite a while on the phone just about that project and went and getting support for that. So he never stopped doing things that was good for the state of Minnesota and also for our veterans and our people serving in the military. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone that wishes to testify on this bill? Representative Driscoll?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd just like to echo some of the comments that Chair Detmer of the Veterans Committee made. I had the high honor of attending General Vessey's funeral and just before the committal service at Camp Ripley at the Minnesota State Cemetery up there. And up until about the last 2 years, until, as General Vessey would have said, until they took my license away, he would report to Camp Ripley on a very regular basis and be participating in high-level discussions as someone who has vast knowledge of defense issues in the state of Minnesota as well as the United States. And as Representative Lueck indicated, he's a 4-star general. The only time that we have a 5-star general is when the United States is actively involved in war. So he is clearly a high-ranking official from the state of Minnesota, and to be the chair of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, to really be the party who's responsible for helping keep the entire world free from tyranny. I think that's this day has come that Minnesota have a General Jack Vessey Day. Thank you, members.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to renew my motion that House File or Senate File 1694 be referred to General Register. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Your bill is on its way. Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, members and Madam Chair.
All right, Representative Rarick. Welcome to the committee, Representative Rarick. I'm going to move House File 2912 be laid over for possible inclusion in the omnibus bill. To your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have an amendment that we would like to put into the bill to get it in the way we would like it.
I'm going to move the A2 amendment to get the bill in the shape the author wishes. All those in favor of the A2 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, amendment is adopted. To your bill as amended.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. This is a bill to try to help our contractors, especially our small contractors, to be paid in a more timely manner for the work that they're doing. 2 years ago, I carried a bill that capped retainage at 10%, or at 5%. It was becoming common practice to withhold 10% out of construction contracts. And for a cash flow reason, this was just killing our small contractors. So it was really good that we capped it at 5%. But an ongoing problem is the fact that there is no trigger date as to when that last 5% has to be paid. And this is becoming very, very difficult for especially our early-in contractors, ones that come in to do the excavation at the beginning or put in your foundations. They're waiting sometimes 1 to 2 years to get that final 5%. This is their cash flow. This is their profit. This is incredibly important. And if you look at the 2017 disparities report, this is listed as the #1 issue that's keeping small businesses from being able to open up and to stay in business, because they just can't make it with that being held out for so long. You know, ultimately, contractors would like to be paid when they are complete and they've finished all their paperwork. But they understand that there is a process that has to be done, and we need to wait until more work is done. So we've come a very, very long way in negotiating with the cities and the counties and admin and MnDOT and many others, making provisions that they will be happy with. And the amendment that we did today addresses some of that. Saying that even though we're releasing the retainage, the 5%, you can still withhold 150% of the value of any work that is not completed, whether it's punch list or just hasn't been done yet. And also, they were expressed concerns that how do we get people to finish their paperwork? So we put a dollar figure to that, where we said on small contracts you can withhold, you know, $500 to make sure they do their paperwork, and for larger projects you can do 1% of the worth of the contract up to $10,000. We feel that is, you know, a very decent amount to have contractors wait to make sure that they do their work. We did get one of the things to address here is the fiscal note. It is not official yet.
And we were going to, I think, hand that out when Mr. Wayne Wazlowski is here, but if members, would you like to have it now, if that's helpful at all? Okay, we'll have the page disseminate that now. It's a preliminary fiscal note, so it hasn't been signed off on. So you'll have that available, and we'll get an updated one as we proceed later on. So for now, just know it's a preliminary one, and it is subject to change. So just be aware of that. And so Representative Rarick.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So as you get the fiscal note, you will see that they have stated that they believe there would be a 0.25 FTE necessary if this goes through, and their rationale is that there would be more cases that would come through that they would have to whether take it to court or use more heavier means in order to get contractors to finish. They say it is typically about 6 to 10 contractors a year that they end up having to use this on currently. And I, as a contractor myself, I just don't see that with the 150% that we're saying you can still withhold, I just cannot see that they are going to have that many more cases that they have to come down on. One reason why is if you're really having a hard time getting somebody to come back and finish, the first thing I would do is call their bond company, because you can pull their bond to get it done. And the last thing a contractor wants to see happen is their bonding company to get a hold of them saying, why aren't you doing their work? Because their rates will go right up. So there are methods to get contractors in to finish their work if they haven't done their job. And I believe that when you say 150% withholding of the value of their work is not enough to get contractors back, I think you're really attacking the integrity of the contractors of Minnesota. They want to do a good job, and they want to get it done, and they want to get it done right. And they value that relationship with their customers, and they like doing jobs for cities and counties and states, and they are not going to jeopardize that by not coming back and finishing their work. So when somebody tries to convince you that withholding 150% of the value of their work is not enough to get a contractor to come back and finish, I say that is, I won't use the word.
We appreciate that, especially today.
You know, I could go on, and we could parade 30 to 50 contractors in front of the group here today to explain the stories that's happening. The one example that I will give, I sent everybody an email, you maybe didn't get it, but if we were to withhold 5% of every city's LGA payments until every single city had submitted all the paperwork they needed, that would be equivalent to what we're doing to contractors right now. And how do you think cities would respond to that? If they didn't get that last 5% of their payment until Pine City, Hinckley, Mora, Warroad, and every city across the state finished their paperwork, they would say, hey, we've submitted everything we need to, we should get our payment. And that's what contractors are saying. That if we're to the point where your building or your road is now being occupied and used, and we have completed everything, we deserve to be paid in full. And those who aren't done, you can withhold money from them to make sure they come back. So with that, Madam Chair, I will turn it over to my testifiers.
Thank you, and welcome to the committee. If you can please state your name for the record and who you represent.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Donna Gulden, G-U-L-D-E-N. I'm here to ask that you pass House File 2912. For the past 22 years, I've been a woman business owner of a small construction company, second generation taken over from my parents, and I have 34 employees. I'm one of 2 subcontractors that will be speaking today, but rest assured there are many more with similar stories that I have. We worked on a public project on the south side of town where to this day, my retainage from July 2013 has not been paid. That's 1,678 days from my first invoice. All my paperwork is in, and I have no punch list items to complete. By now, my profit margin on the job is completely gone, and each day I pay interest not only on my line of credit, but also I have to pay my bookkeeper to keep calling every month to find out when I'm going to get paid, so I can plan ahead. And let me be clear, I would never expect to get paid on any work had I not been completely done and my paperwork in. It's not, I would never expect that. So as you can imagine, this affects my ability to secure a line of credit from my bank because they do not take into account any receivables over 90 days when making their decision. So this abusive payment practice holds my small woman-owned business from growing and creating jobs. It's being said that I should change its language during contract negotiations, but I don't negotiate the contract with public owners. That's what the GC does. What I do is I perform the work. I pay my material, labor, and insurance, and then I act as the bank until they decide me to pay me for my work. The current retainage practices need to be changed in Minnesota so small businesses like mine can grow. I appreciate your time and your listening. Thank you.
Ms. Golden, before we go to the next testifier, just so it's been 5 years, have they given you any response of why?
Yes.
And Ms. Golden? Or do you not care to say?
It's because of fire alarm issues, which has nothing to do with my work.
Okay, all right, wow, okay, thank you. I have next Mr. Byers and then Mr. Tarasek. I said that right, hopefully. Welcome to the committee. If you can please state your name for the record and who you represent.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Russ Byers. I'm a Fridley resident. I'm the president of a veteran-owned business based here in St. Paul that just celebrating our 10th anniversary this month, which is exciting. We are a small business, growing business, and we have been involved with several public projects ourselves. But I'm not going to share any of my personal experiences today. I also currently am the president of the Minnesota Subcontractors Association. And I just want to share the results of one poll that we did amongst our members regarding public projects. We took a small sample, asked them to respond to a list of 90 public projects. Within those public projects, there was more than $1.3 million of retainage withheld against those contracts, and it was withheld for an average of 299 days after the work was complete for each of those trades. To be blunt, again, like Donna said, we're not asking to get paid for work we haven't finished, and we're not asking to get paid on work that wasn't finished properly, completely, and to the owner's satisfaction. We're purely asking to get paid in a timely manner on work that we have completed. Most of our businesses, because we're in construction, are very capital intensive. And when you have this much money tied up in retainage sitting on your books, it just frankly stifles our growth and does make a real impact on what we can do to grow our businesses. I'll keep it that simple. I just very much thank you for your time, and hope you'll pass our bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Byers. Mr. Tarasek? And don't worry, members, you'll all have a chance to ask questions. We're just going to go through the testifiers first. Welcome to the committee. If you can please state your name for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Jason Tarasek. I'm a lawyer with the construction law firm of Thompson Tarasek Lee O'Halloran. I'm also a member of the Board of Directors of the Minnesota Subcontractor Association. I thank the chair and the committee members for entertaining this bill, and I'm respectful of the committee's time. I recognize that Representative Rarick, Ms. Golden, and Mr. Byers have summed up the problem adequately. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, but I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you for being available. Mr. Wazlowski? Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and who you represent.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members. My name is Wayne Wislowski. I'm the Senior Director for Real Estate and Construction Services with the Department of Administration. First, want to thank the author for the many conversations that we've had in the work to try to make sure both taxpayers' interests are protected as well as small businesses and subcontractors. We sincerely appreciate that. We still have significant concerns with the bill as amended. Obviously, you've heard already that retainage is an important incentive for ensuring completion of work and submission of project closeout documents. I would also add to Representative Rarick's comments, Minnesota is very fortunate to have excellent prime contractors and subcontractors. It's not like this in other states. Many other states have much more difficult circumstances in those relationships. We're very fortunate with the quality of contractors and subcontractors that we get to work with to complete our public projects. An aspect that is touched on this is the importance of prompt payment. And we recognize that it is critically important, especially for small businesses, for us to promptly pay work, and that's both throughout the project as progress payments are made on a timely basis, and we track that. We make sure that we're watching to make sure we're paying on a prompt basis. There's statutory requirements around prompt payment. The legislature's acknowledged that as an important issue. When it comes to retainage, our current practices, and again, the bill covers all public contracting agencies, so it's a broad group of that is being covered. I can speak to admin's practices. Most of our retainage is paid out at or before substantial completion on our projects. We've not had prime contractors coming to us indicating that there's a complaint. If they want to make a request for retainage, they can start doing that at 50% completion. We'll review status and then potentially reduce retainage as we move through the completion of the project if everything's progressing well. Specific concerns with the amendment, the bill as drafted, the 150% of the value of incomplete work or defective work. That can be a difficult thing to determine, the actual value of the defective work, specifically related to defective work, not necessarily on the punch list work, but on defective work, you're trying to figure out something went wrong, something's not working right, and there could be multiple trades involved, and some investigation required to determine what it's going to take to complete the repair and who is ultimately responsible for it. The one thing the bill does with paying out retainage after 45 days of substantial completion there's still a warranty period. There's still potential for additional defective work to be identified after that 45-day period. So there's, again, you're losing a key incentive that's out there for folks to come back and complete the work. The other thing I'll stress is just the importance of the limit that was put on. We appreciate the work that was around paperwork, but the dollar limits that are being established in the bill don't reflect that. Obviously, we can be working on from a project of a size of $100,000 up to $100 million or greater. So it doesn't account for the size of projects, the number of trade contractors you potentially can have on large projects, 30, 40 different trade partners on projects. So that dollar amount we don't think is sufficient incentive on certain projects for folks to make sure that paperwork's completed. That paperwork can include as-built drawings, it can include the operations and maintenance manuals. These are the things that are necessary to operate the facility on an ongoing basis, and the cost of recreating that work, if you had to come back and use taxpayer funds to recreate that work if you didn't receive it, would be significantly more than the dollar thresholds that are established. The one other point I'll make, and it may seem like a fine point, is around the definition of substantial completion. Currently, we use the AIA definition for substantial completion. That's a nationally recognized set of construction documents, a nationally recognized definition that's in many contracts throughout the country. We think that changing that definition, and it's a small difference in words, but we think it's a very impactful. It removes the term in accordance with contract documents. That substantial completion date, if defined, as currently defined, we have our contract documents, and that's what's used to define the substantial completion date. We think that's an important consideration as well, and this bill would revise that going forward. With that, I thank you for the opportunity to testify. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, and if you can stick around, we're going to just go through the list first, okay? Mr. Maloney? Welcome to the committee. If you can please state your name for the record and who you represent.
Madam Chair and committee members, my name is Mark Maloney. I'm the Public Works Director for the City of Shoreview, where I've been employed in that capacity for 24 years. I'm here testifying on behalf of the League of Minnesota Cities in opposition to House File 2912. Cities are sympathetic to the testimony by the subcontractors. We, in fact, rely quite heavily on positive relationships with all of the partners in these projects for on behalf of the public. That's why the League has talked with the author and tried to find some middle ground. We've suggested the language that are in lines 1.9 through 1.16 in the current amendment of the bill, as you've got it here. However, we oppose the rest of the bill. Cities need to be responsible fiscal agents with taxpayer money, and one of the ways that we do this is with retainage. Holding retainage, which as earlier mentioned is capped by law at 5%, helps ensure punch list items get done and all the required forms and paperwork is completed. If retainage is modified as articulated in this bill, it would leave public entities primarily with the costly stick of collecting on performance bonds, filing warranty claims, or pursuing litigation, all of which would be at a cost to taxpayers simply to get projects completed in the manner which they've already been contracted for. While we appreciate the author's attempt to help public owners maintain this carrot by withholding 150% of incomplete or defective work, the reality is we're unsure if this amount would be enough incentive for prime contractors or subcontractors to finish the work because of the minimal monetary value. For example, things like final sodding, restoration, cleanup are important to the city and its residents, but the value of it may only be in hundreds of dollars in a project that started out as millions of dollars. Along these lines, the paperwork referred to in the amendment is capped at 1%. The problem with this is that there are projects where cities only get reimbursed by state or federal funding sources when all of the required paperwork is turned in. It's hard to quantify the value of this, but it certainly seems worth more than 1%. We are committed to continuing this conversation on this issue, but we don't think that this bill is the solution. As I mentioned earlier, retainage is a way for cities to be responsible fiscal agents with taxpayer money. Therefore, we respectfully remain opposed to House File 2912.
Thank you, Mr. Maloney. Please stick around if you would. Mr. Carlson? Welcome to the committee. If you could please state your name for the record and who you represent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm Keith Carlson. I'm Executive Director of the Minnesota Intercounty Association today, and besides our organization, I'm also speaking on behalf of the Minnesota County Engineers Association and the Association of Minnesota Counties. This bill has been the source of a lot of conversation in the County Engineers Weekly conference call, as well as a number of additional individual emails and telephone conversations. I want to thank Representative Rarick for hearing our concerns and addressing many of them, particularly with regards to road construction contracts. With the changes that have been captured by this amendment, we frankly can live with this bill. I do want to emphasize the paperwork provision is important to us, and do want to emphasize, besides the documents that we have to provide to state and federal government, this should also include the warranties and manuals that have been discussed by previous testifiers. For obvious reasons, these are important to us. And I want to thank him for including the definition on lines 2.4 for 2.6 to better define the term substantial completion, at which point the retainage has to be released. With that, I'll conclude.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify to this bill? All right, members' questions. Representative Olson.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for bringing, obviously there's good concern here, and I think some of it seems to be addressed in the amendment language, the 1.9 to 1.7, specifically what I heard from with your testifiers being all subcontractors, not prime contractors. So I hear that. My wonder, though, is, as we're in a state government finance committee, is we have to be good stewards of taxpayer resources and have adequate tools in place to make sure that that we can have work completed and it's not dragged on or incomplete at the taxpayer's expense. So I do share some concerns that were raised here. And I think about last session when we were in the Capitol and there were people still on scaffolding and there were cranes in the front yard and there was no sod and, just there was a lot that was done when we still occupied that building, and we still hear about it. Often it gets brought up and people bristle at the amount of money that was invested in the Capitol building. So I do share concerns. I like the language that was addressed in the amendment. I do think there needs to be accountability to contractors too. I think Ms. Gilden, yes, that she mentioned, it didn't actually seem like the issue that she brought up was actually between the state agency and her contract. There was the prime contractor. And so I'm wondering if we further down the conversation around not necessarily the public contracting agency, but is there some more responsibility with the prime contractor? And so I don't really have a question, but just a comment on some of these issues. And I appreciate you bringing this forward, and I understand the concern that you shared here, but I hope we don't make decisions that then cost the taxpayers money down the road. And so I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Representative Rarick, did you want to comment on the whole prime contractor piece at all? Or?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. To your point, it was probably actually another subcontractor under the prime that is the issue, and that's what we're kind of getting at here, is the fact that there are certain contractors who are complete. And using the Capitol example, all the restoration work was done on the outside of the building. That was one of the areas they started with, and we knew that was done. So why would we be waiting to pay that contractor their final payment while we're waiting for the little bit of painting and the things inside to be done? And that's what this bill is getting at, is to say that, we're not saying that all the payments need to be made. We're going to withhold on those who still are not done. but the bulk of the work is already done at the point when they take occupancy of the building or a road, and we're saying, no, those people who were in early, they've been waiting a long time for that last payment, and they should be paid for that. And part of what we're getting at is this is actually a release of the payment to the prime contractor, and then Minnesota statutes say that they have 10 days to pay their subcontractors to the same level that they've been paid. So we're trying to take care of both the primes and the subs with this language.
And Representative Rarick, so it's saying that the public entity pays the prime contractor, and then they're required by law to then submit it in 10 days. What happens if they don't do that? What happens to the prime contractor then?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So Minnesota statute with prompt pay says that if they have not paid to that same level within the 10 days, then they will be responsible for interest and late fee penalties to the subcontractor, which subcontractor would probably have to use some form of litigation to get that, but that's the point of the law, the prompt payment laws.
Okay. Representative Olson, follow up to that? Or?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I wonder if the Department of Admin would offer comment on comment to my comment to the comment. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Weslowski, welcome back.
Madam Chair, members, just want to follow up. I think the capital restoration is a really good example. There we had substantial completion date was December 31st, 2016. We obviously immediately start to occupy the facility. The session started January 3rd at noon on the 17th, which we were very aware of. In that case, what we did is reduce the retainage, and we tried to, again, reflect, here's how much work we have left to complete on the project, and we obviously knew we still had paperwork yet to come in, but we did reduce that retainage that we were holding so that the folks that were early on that project could get paid their retainage as long as they had all their work completed and the paperwork in. So I just wanted to offer that. I think that is a good example of our practices around retainage.
Okay. Representative Quam?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Mr. Weslowski. It was well publicized, the grand opening for the Capitol. I'm curious what retainage there was still being held, if any, when we had the grand opening for the Capitol, and are there any punch lists such as sound system and voting board in the House chamber, anything left on that, or everything's been done and paid?
Mr. Weslowski?
Madam Chair, Representative Quam, at the grand opening, I believe the retainage was about $250,000. Again, that was a $300 million project. I believe we were holding $250,000. I'll come back if that isn't the accurate number, but I believe that was the accurate number for the grand opening. We still have some warranty work that is ongoing. We have also the Preservation Commission met recently, and we're moving forward with adding railing at the exterior piers. It's a safeguard, so there's some additional work that's happening. We're also looking at microphones for the House chamber, for example. So there's some additional things that are being looked at.
I'm glad you took that in.
Yes, I did want to pick up on the audio questions. So,
Okay.
It's going to be interesting to get consensus with 134 members on the option to be selected, but so there still are some things that are outstanding.
Great, thank you. I think anybody else? Otherwise, Representative Rarick, any final comments that you want to make? I do appreciate that you've been working with all the parties involved. When Ms. Golden said she's been waiting for 5 years, quite frankly, I think that's ridiculous. So hopefully that you can work with the interested parties to kind of get at all of their concerns, but at the same time make sure that we're addressing, nobody should have to wait 5 years to get paid for work that is done to satisfaction. So Representative Rarick, final comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it goes the same.
Can I bug you just one thing, too? I guess one of the things that I'd look at this, I hope that cities aren't looking at this as a kind of a budgeting tool, if you will, by delaying payments. And so, I hope that's not the case. But anyway, Representative Rarick.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I don't believe that cities are considering it as a budgeting tool, to answer your question. I think what they are more so using it as a means of saying, getting other contractors who are completed to try to get a hold of those who aren't and use them as a means to get work completed. And that's not what people started contracting businesses for. They started their businesses to do the work that they do, whether it's electrical or plumbing or carpentry or whatever. They didn't sign up to be the hammer to get other people to finish their work. And that's what retainage is being used for today. I believe I would like to maybe ask staff, the comment was made that we changed the definition of substantial completion. And we did add some language in to change it for roads, for road projects, because we know that they're a different animal than buildings are, but we did not change substantial completion definitions for building projects, if I remember correctly, working with staff to draft that.
Madam Chair, Representative Rarick, that's correct. So the only new language in here related to substantial completion is the road project language, and there's nothing in there related to building-specific completion.
Yes.
Representative Rarick?
Yeah, so thank you, Madam Chair, members. So yeah, we have not changed the definition of substantial completion. We just clarified because counties were concerned that roads are vastly different than buildings are as far as when you're using them, how you're using them. So that was one of the issues we addressed. I think, we see this both ways. There are bad apples out there in the contracting business, people who don't come in and finish their work. But we shouldn't be holding all contractors responsible for that. And I admit, in our other committee stop, the city of Elk River was in and gave us an example of how well they did at releasing retainage. And we heard from admin, and I agree. There are places out there that do a very good job, but they don't all, that is not the normal. And we're saying that we need to use this so that all projects are being handled this way. If everybody already did it that way, we wouldn't be here today asking for this. So that's what we're asking for, is that that would be done. And the other thing too is we shouldn't be confusing warranty work with contract work. There are things that happen. A contractor gets done with their work, it's been done, everybody believes it's good, and then something happens down the line and something goes wrong. But that's why there's warranty provisions in contracts, and you are responsible to come back and finish that. So holding contract dollars for warranty work, that is not normal procedures, but that's what's been happening now with retainage. So again, you can go after a contractor's bond if they're not going to come back and do their warranty work, and that is the method that so many contractors are saying that's what we should be doing, not withholding your profit margins on all these jobs for months, if not years. So members, thank you for the time.
I'm going to renew my motion that House File 2912 as amended be laid over for possible inclusion in the State Government Finance Committee. All those in favor, say aye. I can't remember if I can do that. All right, folks, we are good to go on that. Representative Peterson. Representative Peterson, we're going to do House File 3204. And it looks like we've got some amendments.
Yes, Madam Chair, thank you. I would like to get the DE1 amendment on this bill to get it in the shape I'd like again.
Okay. Members, I'm going to move House File 3204 and the DE1 amendment. All those in favor of the DE1 amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, amendment is adopted. And Representative Peterson, DE2, is that, did you want the DE1 or did you want the DE2?
Madam Chair, I'm going to go with the DE1.
Okay, all right, good. That way we did do the right one. All right, to your bill.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Breast cancer is the #1 cancer diagnosed in women each year. In fact, 12% of women are will likely develop breast cancer in their lifetime. Mammograms can help find breast cancer early, even before symptoms appear, when it is most treatable. The standard of care has traditionally been called a 2D mammogram. However, in 2011, the FDA approved what is simply called a 3D mammogram. And this takes pictures at different angles and thus improves the accuracy by 96%. In fact, that's, 2D mammograms only can miss up to 40 to 50% of the cancers in women with dense breasts, and up to 43% of women do have dense breasts, and that's why this legislation is for you today. The results showed that with 3D mammograms, a 41% increase in early detection of potentially lethal tumors and a 15% reduction in false positives resulted that experienced with the 2D mammograms. According to the CMS, there was sufficient clinical evidence of the effectiveness of 3D breast imaging to warrant coverage for all women. And several insurance companies have decided to cover the cost of 3D mammograms. But not all insurance companies are on the same page, but as a result of all the information I just provided, 7 states from Arkansas to New York to Texas have already started passing laws mandating its coverage. Because as you know, mammograms are already a mandate in place. So what my bill does, it's very limited in its scope, and it's more limited than what has been passed by other states already. So it says that women who have already had breast cancer or who are at high risk for getting it have the choice to have the test paid for by their insurance. Early detection is the key to most women successfully beating breast cancer and thus cheaper to treat. And Madam Chair, I do have one testifier here as well.
Welcome to the committee. If you can please state your name for the record and who.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Lisa Hills, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Minnesota Newspaper Association, but I'm testifying personally today. 12 years ago, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was 45 years old. I started having mammograms in my early 40s. In 2006, I noticed an indent in my left breast, and my doctor immediately scheduled a 2D mammogram. 3Ds were not available then. My tumor was not detected on a mammogram, and that's when I was told I had dense breast tissue. Since there was a visual sign of breast cancer, I was scheduled for an ultrasound, and the tumor was discovered on an ultrasound. It was also detected later on an MRI. My tumor measured 1.8 centimeters, so it's about the size at the top of my little finger. And I chose to have a mastectomy and reconstruction surgery. Prior to surgery, it's common that they perform a sentinel node biopsy, and the procedure removes a few lymph nodes, and 2 of my lymph nodes tested positive for cancer. As a result, they removed 22 lymph nodes and 6 tested positive for cancer, and I was diagnosed with the stage 3 breast cancer. My surgeon suspected that my tumor had been there undetected by a 2D mammogram for several years, allowing my cancer to advance. And a stage 3 diagnosis is a whole new reality full of doctor visits and scans and tests. My treatment was extensive. I had 18 chemo treatments, and I had 6 weeks of daily radiation. And I still take some prescriptions 12 years later. Even with my history and a written order from my surgeon and oncologist, I was told by my insurance company that a 3D mammogram wouldn't be covered. My doctors believe a 3D mammogram would have detected my cancer earlier had it been available. And House File 3204 simply requires that women like me who already have breast cancer or who are at a higher risk of breast cancer have the choice to have a 3D mammogram paid for by their insurance. It gives women an increased chance for early detection. Well, thank you for your time and consideration today.
Thank you, Ms. Hills. Is there anyone else that wishes to testify on this bill? Welcome to the committee. Please state your name for the record and who you represent.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. I'm Galen Benshu from the Acting Director of the State Employee Group Insurance Program, and because we have a fiscal note in on this bill, I just wanted to be here for if y'all had any questions.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Members, at this time, any questions? Representative Lilly?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Peterson. I love that you're giving the women the choice to seek this type of treatment, and I often wonder when you brought this forward, I lost my mom at 48 to breast cancer, and I often wonder if this is something that might have helped her, but thank you, and you know, it's important that we offer all these checks and different things, and if they can catch things early. You know, right now, Representative Johnson is suffering with not cancer, but Lyme's disease, and apparently if you catch that really early, you can really nip it. But thank you, Representative Peterson. Can help a lot of people.
Representative Detmer?
Yes, Madam Chair, and again, thank you for bringing this forward. But I think as a committee, we also understand that not just females have problems with breast cancer. I know just this last month, I lost a very good friend of mine who's battled about 10 years, and he finally passed away this last month. So men will have the same situation. Thank you.
Representative Olson?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Representative Peterson. I had the opportunity to hear this bill before, and I support it, and I would support it again. It's a great bill, so thank you. And I was wondering, I was like, why is this in state government finance? And then you stepped up to the testifier table, and it made a lot more sense. So my question is was just the cost to the state. If you could just speak a little bit to that, just to help round this out.
Mr. Benshu?
Madam Chair, Representative Olson, thank you for the question. We expect a little under a $400,000 increased cost per year, and that is largely because we expect an increase in the utilization of 3D mammograms, which are slightly costlier than other types of mammograms.
Representative Olson?
Thank you, and thanks for sharing that, and I still support the bill. It doesn't change that. Thank you.
Do you ever calculate the savings to the state if we'd have early intervention like this? I don't know if that's something you can do in a fiscal note.
Not for this particular fiscal note. It's, Madam Chair, it's a lot harder to do than it is just to estimate the increased utilization, to take into account what might happen down the line, many years down the line. So that is not currently a part of our calculations.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, members? Representative Kunesh Bodine.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This digital machine, this 3D, do all of the breast screening places already have one of these, or would it become an issue of another piece of equipment that screening locations would have to purchase and bear that cost?
Mr. Benshu, do you know, or?
Madam Chair, Representative, I know that this type of equipment is increasing in popularity, and so I would expect that many providers of this service already do have this equipment, and those who do not right now would probably acquire it.
Okay. All right, Representative Peterson, closing comments? Or Representative Ward?
I was going to ask the same question you did.
Oh, okay, good. Representative Peterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members, and thank you for your support on this bill. I mean, I do believe that if you're not doing duplicate 2D tests, because that's what was happening, you're taking multiple screenings instead of having one. However, it is difficult to calculate that, and then also on the treatment side of things, if you're having less invasive treatment and you're catching things early, clearly we're going to save some costs there. But again, how do you equate that in a fiscal note? And I'm not even sure if the amendment maybe would have probably changed the fiscal note as well. We all understand that it's important, but I do think if you look at the entire package, it should save lives for sure, and also hopefully reduce the cost of treatment as well. But with that, thank you so much for your support.
Okay. that, members, I'm going to renew my motion that House File 3204, as amended, be referred to the Committee on HHS Finance. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed, your bill is on its way. Thank you, Representative Peterson. Folks, we only have 5 minutes left of committee time, and I don't want to get a call saying you need to get out of here. So what we're going to do, we are going to go into recess. However, I would like to have you save any of the bills that we have not heard yet. Just put them back into your today folder. And then we will come back and do those this evening. And by the time we're on the floor, I should have a better idea of what time we'll come back. So just kind of make sure you're paying attention on the House floor for that. And I think that should cover it for housekeeping, I think. So with that, folks, we are in recess.